So this is the accompanying video for people who learn better visually rather than reading for a user manual. So this will go over all the same stuff, however I will be following you through it. So first thing, I've opened up a brand new project, exactly the same as you would do following the guidelines. I just have already pre-done it to save building time. In the inventory framework, I'm starting with the utility widget, as this will be where you create your basic items, your categories, and your colour. In your editor utility folder, you'll find this widget. What you need to do is you right click it and click the top option, Run. This will basically spawn the widget in your screen. If it appears somewhere like this, and you are struggling to read it like that, if you drag here and pull it across, it will dock itself in your frame, which is easier to access. So we'll start with the categories. There is already a categories asset available to you. This is a basic one with 1, 2, 3 and 4. However, you can obviously change that to see how fit for your game. To do that, you add to this element here, which is your categories array. For example, if you wanted health, ammo, and currency. When I click this button, it will create the asset to this path, which is this one here. As there's already an asset here, when I click this button, it will come up with this message. You want to override this, so you want to accept this. And as you say, a widget has appeared saying you is successful. The first thing you need to do is save. If you do not save, it will remain in memory and you won't be able to override it at all. As you can see, when we open it, it contains health, ammo, and currency. Now, if you decide you want to add something else, like fruit, for example, or edible, if you create categories, there is a chance you could get this message. This is because this categories data asset is currently being used within the widget already. If you get this and you can't create your asset, close down the editor utility and then reopen it. You will have to write out all of these categories again. However, it will not give you any errors. You will be able to do it. Once you have your categories and you're happy with them, I do recommend only doing this once. Otherwise, if you do this after you've created items, there's a chance your categories will not match up to the categories in the items, as they are based on strings, so they have to be exact. I'd recommend planning this before doing anything. Once we have all our categories created, we need to set up a few things. The first of that being the widget itself. What will happen is next time you open it, you want those categories to already show. And how you will do that is you will go into this section of your item creator, and there will be this asset called held data asset. This you want to populate with your made data asset. This means next time we run the editor utility, it will already appear here for you and you don't have to set it yourself again. The next step we have to do is we have to add this to our inventory. Within our inventory itself, you need to select the inventory asset and then go into its variables and set the categories exactly the same as you did before. This is so the inventory can search through the categories. If you do not do this, it will crash and it will create a load more errors. Moving on from the categories, for all these items you create them very similar to the categories. The only difference is if the item name, mesh, icon, amount or category are not filled, then it will not create the item for you. So for example, I want to create a bandage. Right now I'm doing random meshes and icons, as I will leave those up to you. I only want one of these, and currently the categories are still 1, 2, 3 and 4, so I'll set it to number 1. If I create this item, it will create it, tell me so down in the corner, and then a blueprint asset and a data asset will be made for this. To set this up fully in your blueprint asset, you need to scroll down until you see the default variables, which are called a master item for this. This drop down will include all of your data assets. It is vital you pick the one that matches, otherwise there could be some errors when you come to spawning your items in, as they will not correlate to the item that's currently in the world. Just to reference, say you forget to put in your mesh. If I try to create an item, it will throw me an exception error and it will not create it for you. The final creation thing is the colour scheme. Now, the colour scheme is for how the inventory is going to look overall. This is not a vital part of the framework, and it can be used without this at all. So for reference, the slot colour and slot slate colour, these should be the same colour. The reason they are like this is because some items within widgets, they need a slate colour rather than the normal colour, which is a linear colour. So you can make these yourself exactly the same as normal, or there are pre-built ones within this framework for you. There's a base one, which basically highlights the different colours that are going to be. So if you're struggling to see what's going to be what colour, you can apply the base to check where it would be. There's also cartoon, realistic and wooden. To set up your colour, you go into your player character, and similar to last time, on the drop down you would find the defaults variable and the colour scheme. This is where you can see all the different ones. Right now it's set to realistic. You can change it to whichever one you want, whichever one you create. To note, at any point in this, if you do get a crash, there is a chance you haven't followed the instructions and haven't set up stuff where you need to. For example, if you miss out setting the categories in the inventory, it will crash. You can follow the user manual if you do get stuck, or rewatch parts of this video. So if I press play, our inventory will be created, as well as the colours for our slots. So I set the colour scheme cartoon, and this is the basic one you will get. This is what it looks like with the animation in and out. I'm using tab as my input action, however you can change that if you like. So as an overview, here are the individual slots. This is the inventory itself, as well as a toolbar down here. This is your filtering, so as you can see it's got the categories we have set up, as well as clear. This so if you don't want to stop searching, you click clear. So if you want to add items to your inventory through code, there is this set item at info example. This is the function on the inventory component, which I explain further in the user manual. Basically, you set the index of which you want it to spawn, what item you want, for now it's just bandage, and how many you want there to be. And I set this down to 1. So when I press the G key during gameplay, this should spawn 1 in my inventory, which it does as such. Now as you can see, when I hold and drag this, a red box is appearing. This is the drop box. If you drop an item into this box, it will spawn in your world as such. As this is your pop-up widget, so this will show to the user what that item is. However, it is only when you're in range. You can change this range however you want, but when I pick it up, it's added to my inventory. Right now, there is no right click function because there's only one item. In order to do right click, you're going to need more than one. For example, let's do 10. So if I run this again, I should now spawn 10 in that slot. Sometimes this writing will go off if you are having larger numbers. This quantity border you can change the size of to fit your numbers however you want. So if I right click this, I shall populate my pickup widget. This has multiple functions within itself. So if I left click, I drop it all down. If I right click, I'm only picking up half. If I right click again, I drop one. If I right click on a slot that is either full or is a different item, it will swap what I'm holding with the slot that's in hand. Some final functionalities with this is if I shift click on a slot, it will automatically move it into my toolbar. As I set this as max of 1, it has calculated that and it split them across all of them. If I shift it back, it will find the next empty spot. I know I've set this to a category of 3, so when I click 3 it appears. If I click 2 and I clear, it all works fine. This is currently called bandage, so if I start searching for bandage, it will appear as well. So that's the basic overview of how this inventory functions. You are more than welcome to go in and change the assets if you do wish so. I recommend following the user manual for that, as personally, as this is done through colours, adding any assets would be down to you to make sure they are sized properly. Additionally, you can change the size of the slots to fit whatever you want. So say you wanted 35 slots and you wanted 5 across, you would have to size down the slots to fit that. I do not recommend going any smaller than 48 slots in total, as that can become very crowded, especially as these are getting smaller. Thank you for listening, and I hope that helps when you are using this tool.